The winter days turned into endless stretches of uncertainty, and the honeymoon phase of Jungkook's awakening faded into the harsh reality of navigating the pieces of their fractured relationship. They had thought that waking up would be the hardest part, but it was staying awake, truly present in each other's lives, that tested their resolve. Jungkook struggled to find his place, not just in his relationship with Taehyung, but in the world around him. Everything felt unfamiliar, like he was walking through the memories of someone else's life. He had lost 5 years of time, years he could never get back. And while Taehyung had been living with the grief of his absence, Jungkook was grappling with the grief of losing parts of himself. Every day felt like a tug-of-war between the man he used to be and the man he was becoming. One afternoon, Jungkook found himself wandering the streets of Seoul, lost in thought. The city buzzed with life, yet he felt disconnected from it all. He wasn't sure where he was going, only that he needed space. He needed to breathe. He needed to figure out who he was outside of the person everyone expected him to be, especially Taehyung. His phone buzzed in his pocket, pulling him out of his thoughts. It was a message from Taehyung. "Where are you? Let me know if you need me." Jungkook stared at the screen, feeling the familiar knot tighten in his chest. Taehyung was always there, always checking in, always waiting. And as much as Jungkook loved him for it, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was letting him down by not being the person he used to be. Instead of replying, Jungkook slipped the phone back into his pocket and kept walking. Back at the apartment, Taehyung sat on the couch, staring at his phone, waiting for Jungkook's reply. He tried to keep busy, folding laundry, cleaning the kitchen, anything to distract himself from the growing sense of dread that gnawed at his insides. The silence between them had become a heavy presence in their home. They still shared moments of tenderness, fleeting, soft touches, but there was an underlying tension that never seemed to go away. Taehyung had always been the one to hold things together. It was in his nature to care, to nurture, to fix what was broken. But as the days passed, he found himself questioning whether his efforts were enough. Whether he was enough. He sighed, running a hand through his hair, and decided to text Jungkook again. "I'm here when you're ready to talk. I love you." Hours passed, and still no reply. Jungkook finally returned home that evening, his steps heavy as he walked through the door. Taehyung looked up from the couch, relief and anxiety swirling inside him. "Where were you?" Taehyung asked, his voice calm but laced with worry. Jungkook shrugged, avoiding his gaze. "Just walking. I needed some air." Taehyung bit his lip, trying to find the right words. "You could have told me. I've been worried." "I know," Jungkook muttered, his voice barely audible. I didn't know what to say." Silence settled between them, thick and uncomfortable. Taehyung stood up, crossing the room to where Jungkook stood. He reached out, gently placing a hand on Jungkook's arm. "Talk to me," he pleaded softly. "I'm here. I've always been here." Jungkook's jaw tightened, his eyes flickering with frustration. "That's the problem, Tae. You're always here. You're always waiting for me to be something I'm not sure I can be." Taehyung's heart clenched, the weight of Jungkook's words sinking in. "What are you trying to say?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. Jungkook pulled away, pacing the room as he tried to find the right words. "I don't know who I am anymore, Taehyung. And I don't know if I can be the person you want me to be." "I don't want you to be anyone but yourself," Taehyung replied, his voice trembling. "I love you, Jungkook. I've loved you through everything, through the accident, through the years, and even now. I don't care if you've changed. I just want you. Jungkook stopped pacing and looked at Taehyung, his eyes filled with pain and uncertainty. But what if I'm not enough? What if I can't give you what you need? What if this, what we have now, isn't enough? Tears welled up in Taehyung's eyes as he stepped closer to Jungkook. You are enough. Don't you see? It's not about what we were before. It's about what we can build now, together. Jungkook's shoulders slumped, the weight of his internal battle finally breaking through. I'm scared, Tae, he admitted, his voice cracking. I'm scared that I'll never be able to give you the love you deserve. Taehyung's heart ached as he pulled Jungkook into his arms, holding him close. We'll figure it out, he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. Together. I'm not going anywhere, Jungkook. No matter how long it takes, no matter how hard it gets. I'm here. Jungkook clung to him, the walls he had been holding up for so long finally crumbling. For the first time in what felt like forever, he allowed himself to be vulnerable, to let go of the fear and the guilt that had been suffocating him. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, something shifted between them. It wasn't a grand resolution, but it was a start. A fragile beginning, built on honesty and trust. Their journey was far from over, but as they stood together in the quiet of their apartment, they both knew one thing for sure: they would face whatever came next together. And that was enough. Spring bloomed, bringing with it a quiet sense of renewal. The air smelled of fresh rain and budding flowers, and for the first time in what felt like forever, there was peace in Jungkook and Taehyung's shared apartment. It wasn't the peace of perfection, nor the absence of hardship, but a gentle harmony they had slowly cultivated over the weeks. After their emotional reckoning, Jungkook and Taehyung committed themselves to the delicate work of rebuilding, not just their relationship, but themselves. Each day was a new challenge, a new discovery. Jungkook, still haunted by the gaps in his memory, had slowly stopped focusing on the past. Instead, he and Taehyung started to explore the present, treating every moment as a fresh start. One evening, as they sat on the balcony watching the sunset, Taehyung turned to Jungkook with a soft smile. Do you remember when we first moved here? He asked, his voice warm with nostalgia. Jungkook shook his head with a faint smile, a trace of sadness in his eyes. Not really, but I remember you showing me the view every day since I woke up. You said it was one of your favorite things. Taehyung nodded, leaning into Jungkook's side. I'd always loved watching the sunset with you. It felt like a little ritual, even if we didn't say much. Just being next to you was enough. Jungkook's arm wrapped around Taehyung's shoulders, pulling him closer. I might not remember all of those sunsets, but I know this one. And right now, that feels like enough. Their days were still filled with small, tender moments like that. Quiet walks, cooking dinner together, laughter over shared stories. Slowly but surely, they learned to let go of the pressure of being who they were before. They were two new people, forging a new path together, and they found beauty in that. Months passed, and the city blossomed into summer. The warmth of the season mirrored the warmth that had returned to their lives. Though the scars of the past were still there, they no longer defined their relationship. Jungkook's memories, while still incomplete, no longer hung over them like a dark cloud. One day, they decided to visit the park where they used to spend lazy weekends together. Taehyung packed a picnic, and they strolled hand in hand through the sunlit trees, the sound of birds and laughter in the air. For the first time since Jungkook's accident, everything felt light. As they spread out the picnic blanket, Jungkook leaned back, propping himself up on his elbows. "You know," he said, glancing at Taehyung with a playful smile, "I don't remember every detail of our life before, but I remember this feeling, being happy, being at peace with you." Taehyung smiled, his heart swelling as he sat beside Jungkook. "That's all that matters," he said softly, his eyes shining with love. "We don't need to recreate the past. We just need to be here, now." Jungkook reached out, taking Taehyung's hand in his. "I love you," he said, the words coming out as naturally as breathing. It wasn't the first time he'd said it since waking up, but this time, there was a weight to the words, a quiet certainty that had taken time to grow. Taehyung's smile deepened, his fingers tightening around Jungkook's. "I love you too, always." They sat in comfortable silence for a while, the warmth of the afternoon sun wrapping around them like a blanket. Jungkook turned to Taehyung, his expression thoughtful. "Do you think we'll always live this?" Even after everything. Taehyung looked at him, his heart full as he leaned in to press a soft to Jungkook's lips. "We have been through so much already, and we are still here. I think we'll always find our way back to each other. No matter what." Jungkook closed his eyes, letting the words wash over him. For the first time in years, he believed them. He wasn't the same person he had been before the accident, and neither was Taehyung. But that was okay. They were stronger now, not because they had been perfect, but because they had learned to love each other through the imperfections. As the days turned into weeks, summer faded into autumn, and the leaves outside their window began to change color. Taehyung woke up one crisp morning to find Jungkook standing by the window, looking out at the golden trees. He walked over, slipping his arms around Jungkook's waist. "What are you thinking about?" he asked, his voice soft in the quiet of the morning. Jungkook turned in his arms, a soft smile playing on his lips. "About how far we've come," he said. "About how much I've missed, but how much more we have to look forward to." Taehyung leaned up, pressing a kiss on Jungkook's forehead. "We have our whole lives ahead of us." Jungkook nodded, resting his forehead against Taehyung's. "And I'm ready for it, all of it." The journey they had been on was long and painful, filled with moments of doubt and fear. But in the end, their love had grown stronger through it all. They had learned to let go of the past, to embrace the present, and to build a future together. As they stood there, wrapped in each other's arms, watching the world outside their window change with the seasons, they knew one thing for certain: whatever challenges lay ahead, they would face them together. Because love wasn't about holding on to what once was. It was about choosing each other, every day, no matter what. And they had chosen, time and time again, to wake up to each other. That night, as Taehyung fell asleep in Jungkook's arms, he realized that, for the first time in a long time, everything felt right. They weren't perfect. Their journey had been anything but easy. But they were together, and that was all that mattered. In the end, love, strong, resilient, and reborn, had been enough. And it always would be.